Your dog turns to look at you. His tail starts moving before the rest of him even catches up. You already know he loves you. That part's never been a question. But what if I told you that the most powerful thing he has ever communicated to you, you walked right past it? Not once. Every single day. Without even knowing it. And here's the part that's going to stick with you. There is one thing that almost every dog owner does instinctively, something that feels completely natural, totally harmless, that your dog interprets as a direct signal that you don't fully trust him. We're going to get there. Stay with me. Welcome to Canine Mind. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit subscribe right now, because this is exactly the kind of content we dig into every single week. Here's the core misunderstanding most people carry with them their whole lives as dog owners. Because dogs are so expressive, all that barking, the jumping, the tail going 100 miles an hour, people naturally assume they're reading the full picture. They think they understand everything their dog is saying. But beneath all of that visible, surface-level communication, there is an entire second language running, a language that wasn't built by 10,000 years of living alongside humans. It was forged over millions of years of wolf pack survival, wired so deep into your dog's biology that it never left. Not even after all those generations of domestication. And if you don't know how to read it, if you've never been shown what to look for, you are missing the most profound conversation your dog is trying to have with you every single day. What follows are 6 behaviors that make up his actual love language. By the time we reach the end of this, I promise you are going to look at your dog in a way you never have before. Picture this. You're standing in the kitchen. You're on the phone, half distracted, talking about something that has nothing to do with him. And then, without any announcement, without any drama, your dog walks over and simply presses his entire body weight against your leg. No jumping, no barking, no pawing at you for attention. Just leaning, solid, quiet, steady. You probably reached down without even thinking, scratched behind his ear for a second, and went right back to your conversation. You didn't think twice about it. That moment was bigger than you realized. Significantly bigger. In wolf pack dynamics, physical contact between pack members is never casual. It isn't accidental. It carries weight, literal and social weight. Wolves press themselves against the animals they consider their closest allies. The ones they would fight for. The ones they would follow into danger. The ones they trust with their survival. When your dog leans into you, he is physically placing himself in contact with the one being he considers most important in his entire environment. Not the most entertaining, not the most useful, the most important. Now here's where this gets fascinating, because the research draws a line that matters. Dogs that lean are not necessarily anxious dogs trying to seek comfort from anyone who will provide it. A study published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science confirmed that leaning behavior in dogs is directly correlated with secure attachment, not with anxiety-driven clinginess. Those are 2 very different things, and the distinction is everything. An anxious dog leans because the outside world terrifies him, and he needs something to hold on to. A securely bonded dog leans because, as far as he's concerned, you are his world. The difference shows up in the rest of his body. Is he relaxed? Eyes soft? Weight easy and comfortable against you? Or is he trembling, panting, scanning the room like something's about to go wrong? The first version, that's the love language. That's your dog telling you, in the most physical and honest way he knows how, you are my anchor. Everything else can move. You don't. And before we go further, number 4 on this list is the behavior that nearly every dog owner on the planet misreads completely. I've watched it happen over and over again. On the surface, it looks like a bad sign. It looks like disconnection. It is the exact opposite. Don't skip ahead. This one has been misinterpreted for decades. And honestly, it's not your fault. Nobody taught you what it actually means. Here's the scene. You're sitting across from your dog. Something tense just happened. Maybe you corrected him. Maybe there's a visitor in the house he's not sure about. Maybe you came home from a brutal day and the stress is radiating off of you like heat from pavement. The energy in the room is heavy. Your dog looks right at you, directly at you, and yawns. Big, slow, almost theatrical about it. Most people read that as boredom. He doesn't care. He's checked out. He's tired. He is none of those things. Animal behaviorists have a specific term for what just happened. They call it a calming signal. That phrase was developed by Norwegian dog trainer and researcher Turid Rugas, who spent the better part of several decades observing thousands of dogs interacting with one another and with the humans in their lives. What she documented was something remarkable. Dogs yawn deliberately, not because their body demands it, but because they are actively trying to reduce tension. In dog-to-dog communication, a yawn is the equivalent of putting both hands up and saying, "I'm not a threat. Let's bring this temperature down." When your dog yawns at you, particularly right after a correction, or in the middle of a moment where the emotional atmosphere has shifted, he is not tuning you out. He is tuning in. He read your stress. He registered the change in the room. And he responded with one of the most sophisticated social tools available to him. He is, in the truest sense of the phrase, trying to take care of you. There's another layer to this that researchers at the University of Tokyo uncovered. Dogs yawn contagiously in response to their owners' yawns far more consistently than they do in response to the yawns of strangers. In humans, contagious yawning is tied directly to empathy, to the ability to feel what another person is feeling. And it appears the same mechanism is operating in your dog. He is wired at a neurological level. The yawn is proof that it's working. You're at the park. Your dog is off leash, running full speed, nose dragging across the ground, absorbed in a sensory world you can't even begin to access. He's 20, 30 feet away from you, completely in his element, and then he stops. Just for a second, he turns his head, finds you in the crowd, holds your eyes for one beat, and then goes straight back to what he was doing like nothing happened. That glance lasted maybe 1 second. It meant everything. In animal attachment research, that behavior has a name. It's called referencing, and it was studied in depth by researchers at the Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, one of the most respected centers for canine cognition research in the world. What they found was striking. Dogs, unlike wolves, and unlike virtually any other domesticated animal, have evolved a specific cognitive mechanism whose function is to track their human's location, emotional state, and level of attention even while the dog is in the middle of doing something entirely unrelated. In plain terms, your dog has a dedicated part of his brain whose job is to keep tabs on you, not just when he needs something. Always. Wolves do not do this with humans. Other animals don't do this with humans. Dogs do. It's not an accident, and it's not a trained behavior. It's evolution. It's what happened to the canine brain over thousands of generations of choosing to live beside people. And here's the part that should stop you cold. The frequency of those check-in glances correlates directly with the strength of the bond. Dogs with secure, trusting attachments check in more often, not because they're anxious about the distance, not because they need permission to keep running, because you are genuinely their reference point for safety in the world, because even in the middle of pure joy, paws in the dirt, wind in his fur, nose full of the most glorious smells on earth, he wants to know you're still there. The next time you're at the park, count those glances. Every single one of them is him choosing, in the middle of his own happiness, to look back and make sure you haven't gone anywhere. That's not trained behavior. That's not instinct in the mechanical sense. That's love with 4 legs and a heartbeat. Now we're getting close to the one that is genuinely going to change the way you behave around your dog. Number 5. Stay with me, because if you've been doing what most people do, you have been sending your dog a message you absolutely did not intend to send. Here it is, the one everyone gets completely backwards. Your dog flops down in front of you, rolls straight onto his back, belly up, paws loose in the air, completely open. Every soft, unprotected part of him is facing the ceiling, and almost every person who has ever owned a dog reaches down in that moment and starts rubbing that belly, which your dog may love. That's fair, but that's not the reason he did it. That's not what the gesture is actually about. Think about what the belly represents for any animal. It's the most vulnerable region in the body. No heavy muscle layers for shielding. No thick fur as a barrier, just skin over organs. In the wild, exposing your underside is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Predators know it. Prey knows it. Every animal in a competitive environment knows it. In wolf pack dynamics, rolling onto the back in front of a more dominant pack member is the ultimate expression of trust, not fear, not defeat, not submission in the cowering sense, but relational submission. An acknowledgement that says, I have no armor up with you. I am choosing to be completely open in your presence. I trust you with the most undefended version of myself. Here's what makes this finding genuinely remarkable. A 2020 study out of the University of Pisa found that when dogs rolled onto their backs in front of familiar humans as opposed to strangers, their measured stress hormone levels actually dropped during the measured exposure. The act of being physically vulnerable in front of the right person made them feel safer. Not more exposed, not more at risk, safer. He is showing you the softest part of himself. He is doing it willingly. He is doing it calmly. And he is doing it specifically and exclusively with you. That is not a request for a belly rub. That is a declaration of trust. Those are two very different things. And the fact that they happen to overlap is just a bonus. Your dog comes charging toward you with something in his mouth. Maybe it's his favorite toy, the one that's been through the wash 6 times and is still somehow his most prized possession. Maybe it's a sock that mysteriously vanished 3 weeks ago. Maybe, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, it's something he found in the yard that you would genuinely prefer not to touch, look at, or think about for the rest of the day. He drops it at your feet. He looks up at you. He waits. Most people laugh it off. Some people scold him for having it in the first place. A lot of people take the object, say thanks, and walk away without fully acknowledging the moment. That is the mistake. That is the exact moment where the message your dog receives is, what I brought you wasn't worth your time. Here's what's actually happening underneath that exchange. This behavior reaches back to wolfpack resource sharing, one of the oldest and most meaningful social behaviors in pack animals. In a wolf pack, food and valuable resources aren't distributed randomly, they're shared deliberately between specific individuals based on the depth of the bond between them. Offering something you value to another member of the pack is a statement about that relationship. It's a declaration of inner circle status. When your dog brings you something, anything he is engaging in, that ancient exchange, he is treating you as a member of his innermost circle. Research from the Animal Cognition Lab at Goldsmiths, University of London, has documented that object-presenting behavior in dogs is preferentially directed toward the primary attachment figure, not toward strangers, not toward visitors, not toward the neighbor he kind of likes, toward the one person at the absolute center of his social world. That sock isn't just a sock. That mangled tennis ball isn't just a toy. It is the canine equivalent of someone saving the last slice for you, specifically because you are the person they thought of when they had something worth sharing. When it happens, and it will acknowledge it, look at him, say something warm. Let the moment actually land for him. Let him feel that the offering was received. Then, once he's satisfied and moved on, deal with it however you need to. The acknowledgement costs you nothing. The rejection, the casual brush-off, the immediate scolding costs him something he shouldn't have to lose. Don't let him feel like his most generous impulse wasn't worth your attention. This is the one that is going to genuinely stop you mid-thought. You just corrected your dog. Maybe he jumped up on a guest. Maybe he got into the trash again. Maybe he did the exact thing you've told him not to do 100 times. And this time your voice was firm, maybe louder than usual. The moment passes. The correction is done. And then sometimes 30 seconds later, sometimes 2 minutes, your dog comes back to you. He doesn't hide under the bed. He doesn't go sulk in the corner. He doesn't look at you from across the room with that wounded expression. He walks back over. He sits close. He might press against your leg. He might just hold calm, easy eye contact, and stay near. And most people's interpretation is, he forgot already. Dogs don't hold on to things. Short attention span. He's fine. That is not what's happening. Not even close. A landmark study published in the journal Learning and Behavior found that dogs possess a highly developed capacity for what researchers call social resilience, the ability to repair a social bond after it has been disrupted. And this is not something you find across the board in social animals. It requires a specific cognitive architecture. The awareness that a relationship exists as a thing, the recognition that something shifted within that relationship, and the motivation to actively restore it. Your dog coming back to you after a correction is not a display of amnesia. It is a display of forgiveness. Active, conscious, chosen forgiveness. He processed what happened. He felt the rupture between you, even if it lasted all of 60 seconds, and he made a decision to come back and re-establish the connection rather than retreat from it. That requires a level of emotional sophistication that most people never extend to their dog. But it's there. The research says it's there. And if you've ever watched it happen in your own living room, somewhere deep down, you already knew it was something more than a short memory. And here's the part that will sit with you long after you've finished reading this. He comes back every time. Not because he's programmed to, not because you're the one who fills the bowl, because the relationship between you is more important to him than the discomfort of the correction, because in the full landscape of his world, which, let's be honest, is almost entirely built around you, you are the relationship worth repairing every single time. You probably got a dog because you wanted a companion, a loyal presence at the end of the couch, something that would be genuinely glad when you walked through the door, that would be there when the day fell apart, that wouldn't ask anything complicated in return. What you actually got was someone who stops mid-sprint at the park just to confirm you're still there. Someone who brings you the things he values most because, in his mind, you deserve to have them. Someone who places the most unprotected, vulnerable part of himself in front of you and experiences it as safety rather than fear. Someone who reads the emotional temperature of a room and quietly, instinctively, tries to bring it back down. Someone who comes back after every disagreement, not because he forgot, but because you are worth coming back to. That is not a pet. That is a relationship he is actively choosing, not once, not on good days every single day. And now that you know how to read it, you're going to start